Hey guys, how's it going? I'm just out here going for a little hike in the Bangor City Forest. This place is fantastic. It's got miles and miles of trails, protected wetlands, wildlife sanctuary, and it's right outside the city of Bangor, Maine. It's amazing. You can be right in the middle of the city, 10 minutes drive, and you're in the middle of the wilderness. What I like a lot about this particular trail is it's nice and flat. No big steep slopes that I have to walk up. You remember what's the slope of a line that's perfectly flat? If you remember, we discussed that when you have a line, or in this case, a trail that's perfectly flat, like this, remember what the slope is? We say it's no slope because the rise over run, change in y, there's none. I'm not going up and down at all. Over the change in x can be anything. Now, actually, I'm going to just take my pack off for a second here. I had some stuff, of course. Any good math teacher travels with his math stuff. So give me a minute here. I'm going to go into my pack and get some stuff. And, here we go. That's what I was looking for. So here, if you remember, when we're graphing lines, any line that's totally horizontal, y equals 4, or something like y equals -2. Totally flat line has no slope because the change in y is 0 over the change in x can be anything, 2, 3, 4, and 0 over any number makes a slope of 0. These lines, flat lines, y equals 4, y equals -2, y equals anything is going to be a slope of 0. Remember that, that's important. Now, in your lesson yesterday, you were learning about the slope-intercept form. These birds are crazy. I almost got buzzed in the head there. The slope of any line can be, the equation of any line can be defined by the equation y equals mx plus b. We call that slope-intercept form. This is where y equals m, where m is the slope, times 0 the variable x, plus b. B is your y-intercept. More on that later. So if you have an equation here, like y equals 2x plus 4, and you want to find the slope of that line, all right, drop my markers back there. If you wanted to find the slope of that line, you just pull it right off the equation. Y equals 2x, the slope would be this guy right here. So my slope would be 2, or 2 over 1. Remember, it still represents rise over run. Up 2, right 1. Up 2, right 1. Here, my slope would be -3/5. My slope is -3/5. Now remember, we can write that as -3 over 5 or as 3 over -5. Remember what that looks like. -3. Down 3, +5, right 5. Think about what that would look like. Down 3, +5. Or a +3, up 3, and then left 5. Up 3, and then left 5. Our slopes are -3 over 5 or 3 over -5. Same thing either way. So the other thing we have to discuss is our y-intercept. Now, y-intercept, that's the point where our line crosses the y-axis. It intercepts or crosses the line at the y-axis. This number, the b, the number that's added or subtracted to our x, is our y-intercept. Here, what's our y-intercept going to be? It's a +4. Here, what's our y-intercept going to be? It's a -6. What that means is that this line is going to cross the y-axis. Think about your x and y-axis. It's going to cross the y-axis here at +4. Right about here somewhere. This line is going to cross our y-axis down here at -6. And think about what we talked about. This is more to come. Our slope tells us how we move. And the y-intercept tells us where it crosses that line. More about that, think about this line here. The equation y equals 5x plus 3. My y-intercept is +3. So if it crosses the y-axis, our b would be 3. It crosses the y-axis here at 3. That point, 0, 3, because everything on the y-axis has an x of 0, that point 0, 3 is my y-intercept. So we can see y-intercept written either as b equals 3 or sometimes as the point 0, 3. Either way, you got to be comfortable with that. So real quick, let's kind of go the other way. So imagine I give you two things. I give you a slope that's 9 and a y-intercept that's 3. Take a second and see if you could write the equation in slope-intercept form where you have a slope of 9 and a y-intercept of 3. Well, here we go. Remember, it starts with y equals the slope times x plus b. You got y equals 9x plus 3. You crushed it. Next one. Let's suppose you have a slope of 2/7 and a y-intercept of -4. What's your equation going to be? Here we go. Y equals 2/7 x. Now it's plus b, but because we have a negative, it's going to be -4. Did you get that one? All right. How about a tough one? So let's suppose we have a slope of 0 and a y-intercept of 5, and you have to write that equation. Well, we'd start with y equals, but now m is 0. If we multiply 0 times x, well, let's think about that. That would be 0x. What's that the same as? 0 times x is just 0. And then we'd have plus 5. Well, 0 plus 5 is just 5. So our equation is just y equals 5. How about this one? If you have a slope of 1, if m is equal to 1 and b is equal to 0, think about that one for a second. So we'd have y equals 1 times x plus 0. Well, let's think that one through again. 1 times x is just x. And if I add 0 to something, it doesn't change it. So this equation would just be y equals x. All right, one last thing I have here in my bag of tricks for you guys to think about as far as when you're working on these equations. Some of these equations are going to look a little bit different, but they're all the same, and you're smart enough to know how to move these things around. Remember, the key is y equals mx plus b. Now in this equation here, where you have y equals 3 minus 5x, think about what the slope would be. The slope is the number that's multiplied by the x. Your slope is -5. What number is being added to it? A +3. So your slope is -5. Your y-intercept is 3. What about this one here? Your slope is -2. Your y-intercept is -7. Now this one gets real tricky. You'll notice this one says y plus 8 equals -3x. Now this one's not in that form, but we can get it in that form by getting that 8 by itself. We can subtract 8 from this side, subtract 8 from this side, and that leaves us with y equals -3x minus 8. Our slope is -3. Our y-intercept is -8. Well, that just about does it for me here. I'm going to grab this, get my pack, get my stick, and I'm going to head on down the trail. So until next time, guys, have a good one. Start studying for your quiz on Thursday. Review all these videos. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. See ya.